Good rising, brethren. This is Big Judah coming to you guys from California. Before I begin, give all praises to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who was wisdom? Who was Holy Spirit? Acknowledge Yahushai. I pray the Most High blesses this lesson this evening, gives more knowledge and understanding of the events of the past in order to understand the events that are currently happening on the earth, so we get a much better understanding of the things that are soon to come on the earth. Brethren, we're going to get back in here to the medieval empire of the Israelites. And this book is really getting into a lot of the Middle Ages and when the Gentiles and Edomites came into power, and how they were already at that time busy trying to get rid of history, try to interject themselves into history, and try to make it seem as if they've always been around. But see, all these other books are all coming together to let people know that the Israelites and the world was working together. And then when the wicked got their turn, everything just went upside down. Even with our own books, they were so busy trying to interject themselves into them and make it seem as if they've always been the focal point of the scriptures. Just like in the last video that I did with that pastor talking about how pretty much Christianity was all set up with Americana, and it made it seem as if Jesus was riding the boat from Europe over here to the Americas, and they've set up everything like that in order to put themselves on top. Now let's read a little bit from the medieval empire of the Israelites. We're going to start down where it says that. Here. Yeah. I'm going to make sure there. Of course, you guys check out the top, but here we go. We're going to start right here. That the Middle Ages, okay, earlier was a time of evangelical explosion, is a widely known fact. Many ancient relics were registered in the Roman churches. In the inventory lists, including to the famous manger of Bethlehem at the Roman Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore. Not in Bethlehem, but in Italy. See, they're sitting there saying that these things are registered in Italy. So again, let's read it again, that the Middle Ages earlier was a time of evangelical explosion, is a widely known fact. Many ancient relics were registered in the Roman churches in the inventory lists, including to the famous manger of Bethlehem at the Roman Basilica of Santa Maria Maggiore, not in Bethlehem, but in Italy. Just what do they show the pilgrims and tourists in Bethlehem today? God only knows. So they say, they got the real ones in Italy, and they got these other fake ones in the actual supposed Holy Land. Now, if they believe that was the Holy Land, why would they be sending some fake and fraudulent, artifacts? Because it's kind of like a Disneyland. They sit there and they tell you all these things about these places and get your hearts all, worked up to try to go visit these places, and it's not even the truth. It says the main European center of the cult of the Virgin Mary was located and is located to this day in Loreto, Italy, which in the territory of Cisalpine Gaul, that is Galilee. According to the church version, Mary's house was carried by angels through the air from Nazareth in 1295. One had to get the angels to explain just how the Virgin Mary's house ended up in Italy in the Middle Ages. By the way, the Roman popes regularly congratulated the Italians on each anniversary of this miracle. And see, they're always trying to interject themselves. And it would make sense, right? For a long time, they would make it seem as if these holy lands were where they were at. Who's to say that that's not necessarily true? I remember that until the 1940s did they actually establish the Middle East and Palestine area as actually being the Holy Land. So before that, they were using Italy and those parts of the world as actually being the Holy Land. And they actually have what is a Roman Post regularly congratulated the Italians on each anniversary of this miracle. And see, they're over there congratulating them, whatever else. Okay, let's continue. There has remained from the Virgin Mary in Israel, very likely only the spring outside of Jerusalem, from which, according to tradition, the Blessed Virgin Mary, Blessed Virgin drank. But now a board is fastened over it with the matter-of-fact inscription, "The water is undrinkable." Thus, one needs to recognize that there are no real historical events in the pages of the Bible. There are not even any signs of antiquity, only imaginary reflections of medieval reality. Now, them trying to say that, and that all goes back to them trying to force the the actions or the events taking place over there. When they try to take our book and make it seem as if it was taking place over there in the three parts, that's when many of these problems began. And the fact that they're not open to believing that these events actually happen over here in the Americas, then that just makes them say that these things just never happened in the first place. Just like the walls of Jericho. There is no proof that the walls of Jericho fell down over there in the so-called Middle East. But I'm sure that there's plenty of places over here that they could actually be exploring and looking up, but they don't want that narrative, so therefore they don't open up that can of worms. We got many cities that are, right, Most High is bringing out, especially with that LiDAR, when they can fly over all these jungles and see all these cities. And then who knows what's buried under a lot of these places as well. But when they don't even look, that's exactly what goes on. I remember there was that one Unearthed show that talked about this huge wall that went all around the town. I'm not sure which the name of it is. I know you guys have shared the videos with me. I watched some of that. I just forgot which city it was talking about. But, there's plenty of things that are buried that they've left buried, just like these huge walls that went around the city, because they don't want to open up those cans of worms and those realms of possibilities. Let's continue. Which, as we have already said, are being continually edited. Oh, well, no, let's go back up. Well, okay, let's go again. Which, as we have already said, were being continually edited. The first complete printed Bible in English appeared in 1537. Now, remember now, they came over here in 1492. Right? They came over here in 1492. Within a few years, they were down into Teotihuacan. They were getting all this information and they were trying to destroy it, supposedly. But then all of a sudden, after they came here, got exposed to our records, then all of a sudden, the English Bible pops up. And so they got to hide a lot of that. They got to hide the fact that, they came over here to the New World. Then all of a sudden, they started getting, their first English Bible. Just like they got their first calendar that was actually corrected what they were already doing over there. They were getting the original information, the original documents, and then just going over, rewriting them, making our people translate them for them, and then voila, they got the first English Bible. You can see how a lot of these things happen after they came to the New World. So again, the first complete printed Bible in English appeared in 1537. They published it for the first time in 1580 to 81 in the Orthodox Eastern world, the so-called Ostrowski Bible. Outlines of the Russian Church History, Volume 1. Now you start to think about the Russian icons, okay, and those books that we have. Let's see here. Only in 1821 was the Bible of Greek text printed for the first time. There you go. Now you're into 1821. All right. However, the appearance of printed editions of the book of books did not mean that its editing was over. So these guys were continuously editing and changing things. They were continuously hiding information, changing information, not wanting us to be able to put two and two together. But they were okay. They didn't have to worry about that because the Most High had us in those curses. They didn't have to worry about that. Let's see. But now that we've been brought out of the curses, now all of a sudden we can read this information and we're guided by the Holy Spirit to get this understanding and be able to put these lies together and then be able to destroy the lies and put the truth together to get more understanding. Again, books did not mean that its editing was over. This continued even in the 19th century. True, this was with one difference. Earlier, they brought the New Testament into line with the Old. Now they adapted the Old to antiquity. You got to make sure that Old Testament sounded much older, okay? Now, it was the New, and like I said, the Old New Testament, those are all their words or whatever else. But the old information, we understood it. We knew it. It was new to them. It was new to the Indo-Europeans. And they're the ones that are trying to change it up in order to make it fit, their means, their needs. It had to be set up in order to keep our people asleep. So again, earlier they brought the New Testament into line with the Old. Now they adapted the Old to antiquity. They're making the Old Testament seem older, okay? The point is that the former editors displayed excessive eagerness and filled the Old Testament with Christian words and notions. Now, see, if they have their Christian, religion already set up, then all of a sudden they come over to the New World, to them, to the Americas, and they see that this information that we have over here was the original, and it was very well kept because they didn't get their grubby little hands on it, and it probably had more information than even they had. So then they realized that they had a problem. Many of the things that they were teaching over there were already taught over here. It's kind of hard to push these people over here as being savages when they actually know more about the Christian religion than you do. So therefore, they had a dilemma. And their dilemma was they had to get rid of all this information that was already over here so that they could act like they were the ones that this information was pertaining to. That they were the ones that had they had control, they had preeminence over these books and this information. So they were eager to change it up. And that's exactly what they're doing right here. Okay. So again, the point is that the former editors displayed excessive eagerness and filled the Old Testament with Christian words and notions. Okay. So that's what happens. You get caught up, being so quick to try to change up things that you make many mistakes. So that is with those which, according to legend, were able to appear only centuries after the Judaic canon. It was necessary to remove them. Otherwise, the Old Testament looked like a contemporary of the New, which it was in any event. Here are the facts, and that's it. Because it's just all this information was new to them. Doesn't mean they were making problems when they were making mistakes when they were trying to translate it. Didn't mean the information wasn't valid or old. It's just they're trying to translate it into their own languages. Here are the facts. In a comparison of the Otroshki Bible with a contemporary synodal translation of the Old Testament, it is clear that such, especially Christian notions, were used as altar, icon, case, icons, and iconoclast or iconostas. In the Otroshki, the Temple of Solomon itself is called a church. The translation had to be redone, and he built on the rear side of the temple a wall, and he covered the walls and the ceilings with cedar boards, and he built an inner sanctuary for the Holy of Holies. In the inner sanctuary itself, within the temple, he prepared to set there the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. In the Otroski, there is an icon case for keeping the especially revered icons. So 1 Kings 6, right there. There are no longer an altar and icons, and Solomon's temple is no longer a church. Everything looks solid and respectable. So you can see the changes, okay? This is congruent with the legend. It must be emphasized that the editors of various branches of Christianity also edited the books of the Bible differently. And they included or did not include these in their canons. For example, the Maccabean books of the Old Testament were not included in the Judaic and Orthodox canons, but are recognized by the Western Church. So there are lines about the victories of the Romans in Spain, First Maccabees, which appeared on the map of Europe only in the second half of the 16th century. Yeah, so it's kind of hard to talk about the Maccabees and talk about things that only happened in the second half of the 16th century, right? In the same period as the book of Maccabees, there is a Demetrius who opposes Judah, a defense alliance of the Jews with the Romans is described precisely the same as the analytic alliance of the Russian princes with Sirograd. So you can see that there's, they're interjecting some things that happen with them into the scriptures. And maybe they just anglicized them, just like they did with the Annals of Uster, how they just changed the names, interjected themselves. It was actually us, but then they just kind of changed it up a little bit. Let's skip on down. Well, let's continue. Changes in the religious books are ongoing even in our days. True, they do not concern the canons, but only because, in contrast to the Middle Ages, when the canons just were being created and affirmed, it would be an upheaval of the fundamentals of the faith. There are two more important questions connected with the Bible: the compilation of the Old Testament in its full scope, in particular in the Middle Ages, was, in our view, an appropriate event. The conditions which were inimical to the Jews demanded it. It was found expedient to rally those who remained faithful to the old monotheism. It was necessary again to demonstrate the inviolability of the union with the Most High, to prescribe all the rules of behavior in detail, to remember the prohibitions and commandments, the observance of which only was able to save the monotheists from the deadly sin of falling away from the faith of the fathers. The enemies of Judaism note, as they express themselves, the cruel and merciless nature of the Judaic God. He assails the chosen people with all sorts of penalties. He is ready continually to erase them from the face of the earth, as he erased Sodom and Gomorrah. Moses restrains him with difficulty, okay, from the most severe of measures. One can consider such a relationship to the chosen as logical and righteous only if the goal of the scriptures is to strengthen this is the next page, I'm just going to read it, the spirit of the facilitators, and to show geographically what can happen with those who change the tradition. And therefore, a just and good Lord who has created this beautiful world grows embittered and is constantly indignant, remaining at arm's length from restoring his erstwhile union with the Jews. And that's something that, you can be talking about even to today. The Most High is always, disciplining his children. And that seems to be something that the Christians want to hide, because they've been pushing a whole all-loving God that doesn't pretty much believe in punishing anyone, punishing his kids especially. That's been something they've been pushing this whole time. But now as we come to the end and we come to the curses switching from us to them, that whole dogma of an all-loving God who doesn't believe in punishment is now being put to the test. And the rest of the world is failing that test because now they're starting to realize that the Most High doesn't play games and he doesn't lie. And when he says that when we're done serving our curses, and the curses will switch to the other nations that have had us under their foot, he wasn't lying, nor was he lying about that. And now he's executing those judgments. All praise is to the Most High Yahweh. Acknowledgement to the earthly mother. Who is wisdom? Who is the Holy Spirit? Acknowledgement to Yahushai. Shalom.